So I have a question. Does body count matter for guys? Like, does that matter? And why does it matter if so?
Well, if Yanni would ever answer that question, you know what I'm saying?
Was that question posed to me?
No, I'm just saying, you would never tell a guy your body count, right?
I don't understand why you would ever ask me. Like, that's a judge of character to me. If you feel like you need to approach me, first of all, you will already see my vibe. You will already know. Like, you already know that my body count is not going to be sky high or anything like that, just because of the way that I move. You will see the way that I behave. You will see the way that I speak. You will see the way that I act. You will know. But to me, if you were to ask that nonetheless, then it's kind of like, why does it matter? I'm going to ask you that. Why do you care? Because if I was to even tell you the truth, you're not going to believe me. And
right.
It's not because it's high, because it's low. So it's like, I'm sucking myself out. But I'm also going to have a judge of character for you. Like, why do you care?
Would a girl with like a...
Well, me personally, I wouldn't ask a woman how many men she's slept with. Go ahead, though.
Would a girl be honest if she had a ridiculous body count?
Would a man be honest if he asked that question?
100%.
I would be honest.
Yeah. I think every man would be honest about it.
Because it's not a bad
because of the stigma.
Because it's a double standard.
Exactly. It's a double standard. But I think women would lie about it.
I would lie and say a huge number just to see how the man feels.
And you know what? I believe you. I really believe you.
300.
Honestly, I would
definitely
answer
see
the
you say
question. Honestly, I would answer the question honestly. For me, it's, and maybe this has to do with, I don't want to say necessarily maturity. I just haven't gotten to a place where that bothers me, for me to judge a person's character if they ask me that. Now, not on the first date. I'm not saying you should be, because if you ask me anything sexual on the first date, then I'm going to be thinking that sexual is what you're trying to get after this date. And that shouldn't be on your mind. Like, you should be trying to get to know me. I know, of course, you might can look at a girl and but what I'm saying is you should be trying to get to know who I am as a person. I'm not into messing around no more. Like, that's not my thing. Yeah. I'm older now. I don't want to mess around. We have to be dating with a purpose. Mm-hmm. If we're not dating to move into the direction of marriage, we're not dating. We could be homies. We could hang out. That's when we can go Dutch. If we hanging out and we homies, but you're not courting me, because I'm not even allowing you to court me if we're not moving into the direction of that.
So real quick
courtship
question.
was created for marriage.
Exactly.
Real quick, just to kind of end this one. So what you did in the past does not matter and should not be brought up. Yes or no?
Unless you let another man slide in that thing, it should not matter.
My only thing that I would say when it does matter is if someone has some sort of sexually transmitted disease.
Yeah, exactly.
Or that you need to be like very upfront about that. I don't think you lie about that.
I really would. I think I would be honest. I would be honest if someone did. If we were close enough, if I felt comfortable enough, if the relationship was established, we're friends, because I'm big on being friends before we become anything more. It would not bother me to say it. Now, whether or not you would believe me, if you don't believe me, that's your problem. You shouldn't have asked. But I'm going to answer it, and I'm going to answer it truthfully. Now, what you do with that information in your mind, and whether you think I'm lying because it's either too high or too low or whatever you feel like, that's on you.
What's too high?
I mean, to me, I'm just saying that's contingent upon somebody else's perspective.
All relative.
It's relative. Yeah. Nah, if you busted down 300, that's really that.
But I'm saying, like, what about the guy? Like, if that question comes back, right? I don't know if he asks you. I don't know if you're gonna turn around and ask him back. That's usually how it goes. But what if he gives you a high number? Like, how do you deal with that? Can you deal with somebody that was literally a hoe? Like,
as long as like she said, as long as he's practicing safe sex, his pattern of practicing safe sex, then I'm cool. But then at the same time, with the way that I think, and it might be crazy, like normally there's a such thing as being addicted to sex. Yeah, and you gotta and that's like being addicted to a drug. So I'm not even talking about somebody's past and judging them off their past, but that might tell me that, like, if you want sex and I'm not available that day,
you might. I think what's more important is to ask, what's your relationship with sex? I think a lot of times we have these childish conversations where we're not talking about the intent behind the action. Okay, so you smashed 300 people in your 27, 28 years of living. I'm going to ask this man, what drives you to have so much sex?
Right.
How do you have so much time to have so much sex? Do you
What is the
plan
job?
it? How are you meeting these people? Are you going out? Are you traveling? And it's also important to look at the lifestyle of a person. Is he a rapper? Is he a basketball player? I've had my share of dating these type of people. So I more so ask, you know, what drives you to be like with all these women? And most of the time they tell me, like, to be frank, they be like, growing up, girls did not like me.
Mm-hmm.
Girls thought I was ugly. Girls used to talk bad about me. And so, you know, now, like, I just got money, so I'll just be fucking bitches. Like, you know, so with that, it's like I understand the intent behind it. And it's not that I necessarily think you're a hoe or a sex addict, because it's not driven by the desire. It's more driven by your ego and insecurities. And we could work on that if you're willing to do the work yourself. Meaning, she's so funny. I'm okay with nobody comes, you know, cookie cutter clean. I'm not here to build a man. But I also understand if you're willing to acknowledge and to account for all the shit that you need to work on, I'm gonna be right by your side if I rock with you like that.
Yeah, I think the accountability is huge.
Yeah, it's
like,
huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's like a lot of people be coming up in relationships with their childhood traumas and then just leaving people like messed up and ruining other people's kids because they have their situations that they didn't handle, or they were fat back in the day, or their parents didn't love them the way that they felt like they needed to be loved. And you bring that into a situation with someone who genuinely just wants to love you, and that's not right.
But a lot of people don't know how to handle that, like, especially men, especially in our culture, right? We're not brought up to like say what's happening in our lives, right?
Right.
Yeah,
so
real.
At what point do we actually like start to? At what point in a relationship do you start to say, "Hey, I'm fucked up"?
I think men love they love to get in relationships for a therapist.
Yeah.
And like women, we're not therapists. We're not gonna unpack your traumas. Like, you need to get help before and then come into a relationship so that you're healed and healthy and ready to love and be there for another person. And I'm not about to be your therapist.
And with you know, holding yourself accountable, you also, a lot of people think that just admitting to their faults is accountability. It's not. Like, I'm a therapist, actually. I'm a behavioral therapist.
So she snuck in here. Let me tell y'all now.
Yeah, and I am that's my 9 to 5. I have my business as well, but my 9 to 5, I'm a behavioral therapist. And I do think a lot of times, well, there's two different things that I'm going to speak on, but a lot of times people will say, well, I told you, and it's like, okay, but you also said that you were going to work on it, and working on it takes active discipline. Right. That means in that situation where you would normally react one way, you don't grow from a habit. You can't break a habit until the situation arises, and then you're forced to deal with the habit. You're not going to break a bad habit when you're not having that habit situation. Right. So a lot of times people say, well, I was doing good, and but you didn't have a trigger. Exactly. That's exactly what it was. When the trigger arises, that's when you're supposed to be actively disciplined, or try to at least be actively disciplined. So maybe if you cuss somebody out with swearing, the next time, if you got to tell somebody off, you know, taking baby steps, because nobody's going to change overnight, you can tell somebody off nicely, like, instead of saying, shut the fuck up, get out my fucking face, you know, I'm sorry, you can step away. Oh, okay. You could say, like, I need you to back up, back, homie. And you can still use the same tone, but just your diction could change. Like, but you have to be actively you have to use discipline.
I think, sorry to be the Bible thumper of the group, but the Bible does say, Jesus my nigga, he the realest one. Amen. But the Bible does say you can tell a man by the fruit that he bears. So I'm very big on looking at the actions of people. So you can tell me whatever you want, but words are wind. Like, my daddy's the fastest talker you will ever meet. So it's like, I'm going to look at what your actions are. So even into what are other deal breakers, inconsistency is a deal breaker for me. Deal breaker. Like, I do not deal with men who are inconsistent. If you gonna text me, or if you're gonna call me every single day, from whatever day to whatever day, and that is a pattern that you choose to set, that you set up, maintain it. Anything that you're gonna do, maintain it. My mama always told me, don't do nothing for a man that you can't.
Too. Like maybe you might not think you're really that interested because you're not ever texting him first.
I feel you, and I'm not saying I can't not text first. I'm just saying that there needs to be a level of consistent communication. And another thing my mom always tells me is don't start anything for a man that you will not finish and you will not complete. So I'm not gonna walk around acting like I'm Molly the maid every goddamn day, because that's not what I'm gonna do when we married and we about 5 years in.
Yep.
I feel it. I feel it.
How does that work with the gender roles though?
Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not gonna have nobody. I'm not gonna have nobody living in no dirty house, because I don't want to live in no dirty house. Cleanliness is next to godliness.
That's the godliness.
But I do feel Jesus is my nigga. But I do feel like, but I do feel like there's a certain level of consistency that there should be, and I also feel that based on the love that someone's giving you both ways, you're gonna want to do things for them. Right. So even when it's cooking for someone, or when it's cleaning for someone, or when it's doing their laundry, you genuinely want to do that because that person loves you so much that you want to take care of them. Just like when you have a child. When you have a child, my mom don't care. I'm 28 years old. She'll still do my laundry because that love is just so unconditional, where she likes to do for me. So I think once that love is built, that's what you just do.
I agree. I definitely agree. It doesn't become it becomes like natural to oh, I'm sorry. It becomes natural to want to do those things rather than you having to think about it, like, oh, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. Like, you naturally do, just like anything you love to do, you naturally do it.
Yeah, so inconsistency.
All right, well, I hate to go back to one of the conversations we had earlier, but as far as like cheating, what do y'all think about the Cardi Offset situation? Like, do you think that she was right to take him back after that situation and do it so publicly?
Well, before you guys answer, tell me exactly what happened, because I don't know exactly what happened.
Okay, so basically Offset cheated on her with one of those doll rappers. You know, they're all dolls now. So he must have like cheated. He was dumb enough to get his face on the FaceTime instead of having like his homie on the FaceTime, and he just talked through the voice. That's what I would have done, but I'm not.
This was not the first cheating incident since their marriage, by the way.
But nonetheless, basically he cheated on her. She clearly felt deceived. She felt deceived. She felt embarrassed because she's not only getting cheated on like a regular bitch like us. She's getting cheated on a massive platform for millions of people to see. So I can see why she reacted the way she did. She went publicly and said that she was thinking of filing for divorce. And lo and behold, Offset tried to like do all the nice gestures to get her back, and she wants to maintain her family and her marriage. She loves her husband, and she wants her kid to grow up with 2 kids. So that's where we are now. She brought him up on the Grammys. That was their announcement of them being back together. And he feels, and people have their own ways about it, where they're like, he shouldn't have went up with her. Like, some girl said that at work today. She was like, he shouldn't have went up with her at the Grammys after all that he did. And I was just like, you ain't got no husband, shut up.
Right.
Well, my parents
might call it. I kind of feel like everyone should do what's right for their relationship. I feel like, especially when you put things on social media, you know, you have everyone's voice, but you have a union between 2 people. If you want to get cheated on forever, it's your marriage. Get cheated on until you're ready. Because it's like, I'm accepting and I'm choosing. No, but if you choose to do that, that's your choice. You can't judge somebody else because they chose to do this. And I think I watched this little clip of, what is her name? Waka Flocka and his wife, I think they were doing, or marriage boot camp, and they asked something like, oh, how many times you gonna get cheated on or something like that, and she responded, as many times as I want. And everyone was dragging her through the comments, but I agree. If she's choosing to be in that situation, who are we to tell her that she should not be in that situation? You don't think that her girls and her friends ain't tell her like, okay, this is wild, maybe this, maybe that. You don't think she talked to her mom? You don't think that she's trying to like resolve the situation? She is obviously comfortable, and I don't want to use her just as an example, but just in general, if you are okay with the situation, then let people live in the way that they want to live.
And you don't know what the other person's done to that person, where they're thinking, you know what, maybe I can stick around in this. It's just who might have spoke about it in front of other people, but you don't know what the other person's done. You don't know what the other person might have done to provoke the cheating. Because if you out here holding out from your husband for however long because you mad he didn't take the trash out and something happens, like the Bible again says that you are not supposed to like withhold sex from your husband. Like God's even saying,
the Bible
don't
also
do that.
Says that you're not supposed to cheat, commit adultery.
It does.
So I think back to Christianity, if you're getting married under the guise of before the Lord, you're not honoring vows to your husband or your wife. You're honoring vows to the Lord. Exactly. So that's where we need to be clear on. Back to Cardi and Offset, I don't talk about other people's marriages because I've been there, I've done that, and it's made me lose friends. Mm-hmm. And actually, it's so funny because when I was driving here, I saw my old best friend from Connecticut at the taco place with her husband.
Wow.
She was here for Grammy weekend, but just at the same taco place I was getting tacos from. We had emailed each other 3 days prior, and I had apologized to her because she uninvited me to her wedding because I spoke to her mom and to her sister about her marriage. I won't go into detail because this is going to get broadcast, but what I will say is I crossed the line. Mm-hmm. And I crossed the line because the bottom line is they have to take that up with God. Yep. Whatever I feel like he's done to her, whatever I feel like she's done to him, or whatever the dynamic of their relationship was in that moment, in that time and place, doesn't account for their complete union, right? Mm-hmm. And like you said, the bond that they share. So who am I and who are we to tell a person like Cardi, you need to break up with him, you need to do this? What I will say, they need to go see the Lord. They need to seek the counsel of an ordained preacher or pastor and talk out why they're doing the things they're doing. She needs to figure out why she's accepting certain things. He needs to figure out why he's motivated by sex and why he's so easily tempted. And they need to get back into a union with each other and with God.
Right.
That's it, period. Back to my friend. I need to mind my damn business.
Okay. My mom always said, my mom always said, don't talk about people relationships and don't talk about people kids. Those are two things you don't cross.
Period.
Yeah. I will say, and I'll play devil's advocate on this one a little bit.
The devil ain't no advocate, honey.
Oh my gosh, you know what I mean about the figure. It's a figure of speech. But I will say this. Not that it's any of our places to judge, but sometimes people get married and they don't really think about the vows. Really, like to some people, those are not vows. Those are just words. And I will not say my opinion on their union, but sometimes the reason why people do those things is because they were not ready to take those vows before God, and they did it anyway. And just to let you know, God does not bless every union. I will say that she did say in the beginning that she has a nigga with community dick, and she was okay with that. And he showed her that pattern of behavior from day one. And she was cool with fucking somebody else's man. She said it. That ain't my problem.
So my thing though is that being said, we shouldn't speak on it, because if she was okay on it, that's what she was okay about.
I'm not speaking on her accepting it. My thing is, don't come out and publicly make a spectacle of it and say that you're not okay with it, because you obviously are okay with it.
But people
I don't
have
think
the
we
choice
can do that
to change their mind.
Because I feel like
you can change your mind. Like I said, we're not gonna agree on this one, because at the end of the day, this is what I said.
At the end of the day, I said what I said.
You're right on this one on the next segment.
Okay.
We'll be back.
Okay.